I'm going to talk about GPFS. I hope a few of you know that product, a very new product. So GPFS is a mature product. We are here since quite a few years. And we have been focusing on, let's say, what is GPFS good for, at least at the beginning. And then I will go over what we are doing on top of the traditional, I would say, features that HPC is looking at, okay? So it's true, traditionally you are looking for a scalable, high-performance file system, at least so far, okay? Okay, and it's true, GPFS has been, I would say, developed and designed for that, okay? A highly available cluster architecture. What does that mean? That means you have nodes in a cluster, and when one node fails, the other can take over, okay? That's the high availability part, and I will go into more detail about that. It's built on a concurrent shared access disk, such that every user could access the same files, and we'll see that we have a lock mechanism to allow that, such that you have high concurrency rate, okay? And then, of course, it's parallel. That means you can scale as much as you want, okay? If you want more performance, you increase the number of disks and the number of NSD servers and so on and so forth, okay? So it seems that it's true. Performance-wise, the budget is the limit, either the power budget or the dollar budget. What we have been also doing over the years, it's true that is increasing the scope of GPFS regarding the number of platforms it has been running on. It's true, originally GPFS was developed on PowerAX, and it's still, of course. But over the years, we have increased the number of platforms we are supporting. It was just after Linux on Power, then Linux on x86, and now it's even Windows, okay? And it's true, we had several releases of Windows enhancements, and now we can have a full Windows system, okay? No need to have an NSD server with, under Linux. It's true, at the basis of GPFS is what we call the NSD server, okay? What does that mean? So it's true you have a global shared disk model, but you are running on a LAN. So what we have built is a kind of iSCSI protocol, okay, which runs originally IP, and now of course it runs RDMA, such that any, we will call them clients, can read and write blocks of I/O to the disk, which are connected somewhere, okay? So it's true, originally we were using some specific fabric. Now it's any type of fabric, IP or IB, okay? And what is very important is the log consistency at the block level. Although some people could consider that useless, sometimes people do access the same file. And of course, it's important when you are in a big system that you can do that. And as we do not lock at the file, but at the block level, then you can have concurrent access to the disks and to the files, okay? So that was very, let's say, a very early design, the NSD server. So you have the clients, you have the NRD servers, which are attached to the disk through an, so it's true, originally it was a direct attached disk, then we had SAN controllers and so on. And in fact, as you will see, you can attach nearly any kind of storage. Of course, with the preference with DDL. Increased performance. So it's true, HPC means performance. Okay, so we had to increase performance. So high scalability, I told you, we are now about, we can access up to 2 to the power 63 file systems, and files can be the same size of the file system. Parallel file system, so data striping. It's true that we can reach performance 100 gigabytes is very easy. There was a chart earlier about PERCS. PERCS is not only about number of I/O, but it's also about performance. for the PERC system we will be delivering to Blue Waters, we will support 4 terabytes per second of aggregate bandwidth. 4 terabytes per second. That's high. And as I said before, concurrent file access and block level locking. That's good. So it seems it's true, performance is key, but what about availability, okay? Isn't data very important? You can lose a server, but losing your data is a great pain. So, as I said before, we have been enhancing first originally and then with over time new features to increase the availability of GPFS. And so first, as I told you before, that's the failover architecture, okay? We can say that if a GPFS design is well done, there is no single point of failure, okay? You can pull out an NSD servers, pull out the cables, there will be, I would say, a failover about the other NSD servers and so on. We can also have one of the features GPFS has. First, in this failover architecture, we have no data and metadata server. Every node can do everything. So that's true. That's part of the why it's a very, I would say, highly available node, because there is no single point of failure, no metadata server. It's also, we can split data and metadata, okay? And you could put them on different types of this storage. For example, very high, for example, like SAS or fiber channel or even SSD for the metadata, and the most cheapest for data. So that's one thing, you can split that, GPFS allows that, but also you can replicate the data. Of course you could choose to replicate data and metadata, but as there are separations of those two things, if you think metadata is much more important, you can just replicate the metadata. And finally, of course, as you will see, we have GPFS as backups, archives, and so on property. It's very important that we have snapshots. Okay, that's something which was introduced later. Snapshots allows you to do kind of immediate backup of your data. But it's true that today, it's much more than reading or writing a file. It's much more a question of managing the data enterprise, okay, the enterprise of the data. And you have different types of data. You have database, you have the backup archive, you have application servers, and you have also sometimes enterprise which are not in the same location, okay? So that's a thing we brought to the market about 4 years ago, which is the multi-cluster capability of GPFS. What is it about? Due to the nature of the network shared disk protocol, we can just send blocks of data over any LAN, but why not one, okay? So in fact, you can build GPFS systems in the same machine room or miles away, and each GPFS cluster will be able to mount its file system to a remote customer, okay? And this cluster accessing that GPFS file system, okay, will have exactly the same property in terms of lock and so on as if it was a local one. And of course, as we are using a network protocol which is much faster than NFS, it is quite substantially performing. And it's true that we had been experimenting this technology years ago with the DESA infrastructure in Europe, but now it's a part of the product and it's used in many enterprises. Again, to first manage the global access across different locations, okay, or to have also a kind of real high availability solution, because if they are in two different locations, there is no problem. Okay? So that's a feature we introduced a few years ago. What we have been doing in the last, I would say, 2 years is improve the file management. data is not only files in a disk. Okay, you need to manage them. So that's what we did with the storage pool. Then you need to upgrade your cluster at some point. Okay, of course there is new release of OS, there is new release of GPFS. What do? You stop your file system and your center because you are putting an upgrade? That doesn't sound like a good idea, okay? So what we introduced based on the fact that each node can play any role, okay? We also introduced the fact that you can have different releases of GPFS in the same cluster. So for example, we are now with GPFS 3.4, you could have nodes with GPFS 3.3, okay? Or let's say you start with GPFS 3.3, then update, shut down one node, the failover capabilities goes on the other one, you install GPFS 3.4, you start back again and it works, and then you move the other one to 3.4. So that's the rolling upgrade, so that you have no downtime in your cluster. Then of course, common management interface to simplify the management. You can do it from any node, from any location, okay? You can manage your data. I skipped the storage pool, and let me come back to that. Storage pools means different things. First, you can define internal storage pool, disk storage pool, for different type of data. As I said before, you can separate them to be data or metadata. But you could also say, I have a fast set of disk, and these files need that kind of capability, and I have slow disk here and so on. Okay, so storage pools is that. So what we introduced with that is a real, what we call lifecycle management. Okay, so it's through GPFS, through the use of these storage pools, is now capable, and through policies, is really capable of managing your data from the disk to the tape, okay? So this policy, of course, defines, based on rules, define the placement, okay? You will say that this type of file, or the files belonging to this user, or whatever, this size, having this size, or will be placed on that type of disk, okay? That type of storage pool. That's one thing. And then, of course, you can define policies to migrate those files from one disk pool to the other because, for example, you have very fast disk for Scratch files. Maybe you want to put them in another slower pool. So you define a policy to move those files after that many days or whatever, okay? And so on and so forth. What we introduced also is external storage pool, which is the next step, okay? It's exactly managed the same way, except those external storage pools will be connected to HSM, okay? So, again, same way, you define policies, and then instead of migrating your disk from this storage pool to that storage pool, you will migrate them to a tape library. And GPFS has been interfaced with two HSM solutions. One is the IBM TSM Tivoli HSM, okay? And the other is the HPSS system. And both of them are used in many places, different type of, I would say, performance, of course, for people looking for the very highest rate. HPSS is no doubt the best. But HSM has been improved quite a lot over the years to make it a very good solution. For example, Jülich in Germany is using TSM HSM. So it's true with this lifecycle management, we are now, and you are now, capable of really managing the data all over the disk and the pools and so on, okay? And of course, to implement that, we have improved the scanning performance of GPFS, the metadata performance, so on and so on. For example, I think we are capable of processing 1 billion files, scanning 1 billion files in about 15 minutes with the latest generation of GPFS. Okay, so that's for the, I think, that's for the features we have. Talking about hardware, it's true. So we support any type of disk. So this is the official list of storage we support. Of course, the IBM, DDN, EMC, Hewlett-Packard, and Hitachi. But again, if you have some types of storage which is not in this list, we can support it. Regarding the servers, as I told you before, so it's true. We started with Power and AIX. Then we moved to Linux, so we support any type of system based on Power, Blade Centers, and BlueJ. We introduced the x86 architecture originally with Linux, and we support any type of IBM platform, whatever they are running x86. And what we support also is non-IBM x86 and AMD servers. Again, this list is not there. But for example, we support SGI platforms and any x86 Linux platform, Cray, okay, and so on and so forth. So any type of hardware running an Intel, an AMD, and a Linux operating system will be supported. And it's true, the new thing is that we are also now supporting Windows. In terms of operating system, as I told you, so I think that's clear. And it's true, as data is more and more an application problem, a database problem, we have also independent vendors which support GPFS, like DB2, Oracle, SAP, SLAS, and so on. Such that it's true at the end, it's true, GPFS is born and is still very important in the scientific area, okay, where performance is key, seismic processing, financial, but we are moving up in all areas where, of course, data, a huge amount of data is created, and performance is important, and reliability is important. I think that's something I hope you will remember, reliability. So any type of media, and it's true, in the last 2 years, GPFS has been installed in quite a few areas which are not traditionally HPC shop. It's true also, for some time, price was a problem. Some customers were saying, yeah, but if I have a large cluster, GPFS price is unbearable. Okay, you scale performance, but you scale price. That's not what you want. Okay. So what we introduced in GPFS 3.3 was a different pricing model, where we differentiate, I would say, finally, clients and servers. Okay, because it's so originally. Clients and server was the same, so you were paying for the same price, whatever you had, clients or server. And of course, that's not really a good thing, because clients should be much cheaper than servers. So we introduced that new pricing with GPFS 3.3, and of course, we are doing, we are providing evaluation license, and we are providing GPFS for vendors who would like to use it. For example, EDF. So that's GPFS 3.3, and what are we doing now with GPFS 3.4 in terms of pricing? So it's true, organizations are becoming large, okay? And even though we introduce a model based on number of clients and number of nodes, some enterprises have huge systems, okay? They are multi-sites, they have thousands of nodes, and they want to have just a simple price, okay? No matter how many clients I have, okay, I pay once for all, and that's fine. So we introduced that also with GPFS 3.4, which is this new license where you buy a number of licenses with a number of nodes, okay? Number of clients is unlimited, and you have also a 3-year support minimum of up to 7 years, okay? That's it. Thank you.